and we have a lot to cover today. If you were able to join us last month, you know that today's call is a bit more of a fast-paced update kind of check-in. We have a lot to discuss, and we are making our May meeting a really important deep dive into our SWOT analysis, talking about the inclusiveness and access to arts and culture in Athens, Clarke County. So that is coming in May. We will do a quick summary of that at the end and really reserve our entire hour in May for that really important topic. So to kick us off, I just want to again welcome you to Create Athens, the arts and culture group for Envision Athens. We have a few new faces, so would love to welcome you to introduce yourself. Eric, let's start with you. Just name and your affiliation.
Hi, Eric Neesmith, and publisher of the Bitter Southerner.
Awesome. So glad you're with us. And you're representing
Athens
Bitter
Made.
Southerner and Athens Made, right?
Correct. Yeah, I'm here as a representative for Athens Made.
Awesome. Welcome. Love your work and great to see you this morning. Next, Lucy.
Hi, I'm Lucy. I am a student at UGA and I write for Infusion magazine at UGA. It's like the multicultural and arts and culture magazine.
Awesome. Glad you're here, Lucy. Any other new faces that I'm missing? You all look quite familiar to me. Great to see you again today. Okay, next on the agenda is the Athens Creative Economy Concept Update. So looking at you, Dr. Sutherland, for that.
Yeah, thanks, Erin. I'm just going to take a few minutes. I sent out this morning the concept catalog, so everybody should have a copy of it. I'm not going to go into detail. There's a lot of concepts and a lot of detail related to the concepts, but I do want to, if I can share my screen, John, I'd like to just run through a few overview slides, if you don't mind.
Okay, you got it real quick.
Okay, thanks. And it's great to see everybody. And again, can you see my screen now?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Let me try again. There it is. Okay.
Bingo.
Now you got it. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I really appreciate everybody. The input that I've had from a number of people, and several of you were at the concept presentations yesterday, the student presentations. Marilyn was there, Stephanie was there, and we did record it. If anybody's interested, we'll share that link if you'd like to see it. But what I'm going to do is just kind of go through what they are and then some next steps that we might take with these concepts. First of all, it came out of a course we teach. It's critical design thinking, and the students learn how to apply design thinking to a given challenge. And our challenge this year was to develop concepts to advance economic development for Athens creative economy. We call that ACE. And we've been working on the Athens creative economy projects for the Athens creative economy now for 2.5 years. And if some of you may know that the Athens Creatives Directory came out of concepts that the students developed. It went to the Economic Development Office. Ryan Thornton took over working with Erin, then the development using the New Media Institute capabilities, and got her done. So, kudos to everybody on that. And then we know that there's going to be some updates to that as well. And some of you have heard about the podcast we're doing. That came out of these concepts as well. But the idea here is to help Athens creatives advance their economic capabilities and development. And two sub-bullets, wanted to better understand these communities and what their needs are. There had been a lot of research done by this group and others, and the students just added to that. And I think the pandemic also unveiled some things that were seen as opportunities by the students. So they use that in their concepts. And then to find opportunities to increase advancement, including cross-disciplinary collaboration. So in the concepts, you'll see a lot of cross-disciplinary collaboration. The one thing we know about healthy creative economies is that people in different creative communities, parts of the community, work together to develop bigger things. So the teams, these just basically are the teams, all graduate students, and very, very focused. Just a little update on the podcast. Interesting there, Seth Hendershot has stepped in to be the mentor and the MC for all of our podcasts. We've now done 5 podcasts are in the can. The first couple are going to be coming out very soon, and everybody here will be made aware of that. And the title of it is The Clocked In Creative. I think Seth and a couple of people sat around one night and came up with that as the title for the podcast series. We use a design thinking model. This is the model that comes out of Stanford and the Hasso-Plattner Institute in Germany. But just to give you a sense, there is a process that the students go through. And the first step is to empathize, which means to immerse themselves as best they can in the communities that they're coming to understand, and then to begin to define opportunities and to create those concepts. We applied a lot of different tools. We do have a methodology that we use at the University of Georgia. We did that in partnership with Stanford University. So we've developed our own UGA design thinking manual. And these are just some of the tools that we put together. One of the things you'll find in the concept catalog that you were sent is in the appendix. The students develop personas, and these personas kind of drive their thinking. So they had a persona called the starving artist. So who's that? What's their life like? And then they had the rising star. Who is that and what's their life like? And they didn't just look at artists, they looked at patrons. And so understanding patrons and what drives patrons became very important to the students. But these are some of the tools that they use and apply. And I'm happy to share this manual if you're interested, anybody's interested. So they came up with 28 different concepts. And at a high level, these concepts integrate capabilities and talent across Athens and include UGA. One of the things the students felt was that UGA should better work with the Athens creative community to help, whether it's in the art itself or business or some form of marketing, whatever it might be, but how do we better integrate? And so you'll see some concepts related to opening the doors, so to speak, for some of the programs at UGA to open the doors to the Athens community. Focus on a high degree of inclusion. One of the things the students realized, again, looking at creatives across our very diverse community, is that certain people don't feel, and that was shown in the research that was done by Envision Athens and Create, people don't feel included. And so a lot of their concepts will, as you'll see, focus on bringing people together and having a higher degree of inclusiveness. Making available resources to assist creatives to develop business skills. One of the things that the students found as they were doing their research is people may not have the business skills, the business acumen. And so the question is, what can we do as a community to help creatives have a better set of business skills? And not only the business skills, but some advisory services and capabilities to help creatives as they're developing their business. One of the things that the students looked at is thinking about moving a person from a hobby to a rising star to becoming a star. What's that trajectory look like? And what would be necessary along that trajectory in terms of business skills? And then finally, there was a call for a comprehensive economic development plan for Athens arts and culture community. There was something was started in 2017. Obviously, some water has passed under the bridge since then. The thought was to pick that back up and to really power it up to help the arts and culture community in Athens. And all these concepts are available for anyone to use. You know, we're asking you, if you're interested, adopt a concept today. We're happy to help with it in whatever way we can. You know, my email is on our email list. I'm happy to get back in touch with you. The students will be here for a couple more weeks before they leave, and they're willing to answer any questions you might have. So with that, I just say thank you, and I'll answer any questions you might have on it now. I know you may not have had time to look at the concept catalog, but please do. And any questions?
David, my guess is there are a lot of questions and it's a little bit difficult to know where to start. What would you see as maybe the most helpful next steps in the next 3 to 6 months based on this concept catalog?
Yeah, I might flip the question maybe to Stephanie and Marilyn and their subcommittee. My feeling is that it needs to be, you know, housed somewhere. And so maybe it becomes, and from all my understanding and our interaction, that this is a place where it might reside. Marilyn, I don't know if you want to chime in on that.
Well, it's a, I'm surprised to say anything, and Stephanie, I'm sure, has some thoughts. The presentation yesterday was phenomenal. They have looked at every aspect of the arts community needs in Athens. And I do think when you were talking about, David, next steps, those are things we need to think about. What do we take from your catalog? What ideas do we take from the students and begin to develop more thoroughly, and to use it, you know, to use along with all the other plans that we're making. There was some fabulous stuff. The podcasts I have been more in touch with than any of the other areas, and those are phenomenal, and we do not want to lose that. So I think we do need to really go through that catalog, more than one of us, and look at those things that we think might be developed more thoroughly immediately, kind of prioritize that, and see how it connects with all the other things that are going on.
Yeah, I think that, as you say, Marilyn, the concepts kind of fall into different current activities. I guess the one activity, and I know you and I have talked about it, and Stephanie, is the development of a comprehensive approach, kind of a comprehensive plan, maybe going back to what economic development was doing in 2017, and kind of using that as a platform or a baseline. Stephanie, what would you say to that?
I would say, you know, a lot of the focus that the subcommittee that Marilyn and I are working with is about having a community conversation. And so your students' presentation yesterday really helped illuminate for me areas of the conversation that maybe I hadn't considered, like the conduit for which fashion and retailers connect to visitors who are here just like day visitors, and sort of like the gaps in between those, as well as ideas for culinary, so that there's an idea for like established culinary people who already have a track record, or and then there's also the space for people who are like, I have this idea, I want to try it out, and need to sort of a testing ground or an access to like a test kitchen. We talked about like an incubator space for culinary. So I think that's wonderful insights for us, because our challenge was to create a community conversation. That's what our like objective is within the Envision plan, was to create a community dialogue about where are these gaps, and where, giving people space to say, this is what I'm looking for and cannot find, on both sides of those equations. People looking to consume and buy art, and buy, you know, and listen to music and experience performance art, and eat at wonderful restaurants and buy hot sauce made locally. So, and then we also have the people who want to make those things. So I think that really helped fill out more of what we're looking for that community conversation, and wonderful ideas for how to identify those spaces that we're lacking for those connectivity. So I thought, especially the fashion and food insight really helped me a lot. That's areas of our creative economy that I'm not as in touch with. And so that was really helpful to hear your students speak on those particularly. And I don't know that we talk about it as much within this group. So I think those are also areas for us to step closer to and look for people within the community to help us see them, to speak up and invite them to this conversation, and more largely to the big conversation we want to have about the creative economy here.
So Aaron, let me answer it this way. Why don't we take this to the subcommittee? We'll kind of look at it and determine, what falls in where, and then come back with some next steps, if there's any that show up for us.
That sounds great. I think the two taglines for Create Athens, I want to see this one on a t-shirt. When in doubt, ask Marilyn. And let's take it to the subcommittee. The first one's my preferred, but let's do both. And I think that you guys raised maybe the most important point about the how, which is as our priority action is focused on ensuring optimum access both for creators, and people who want to experience, receive arts and culture. In building this plan or strategy, the process for building that strategy will need to commit to taking the time and investing the resources to include all the perspectives. So we don't get to a point a few months from now where we have this plan, we present it to people who are not included. And, so that's just something that I know this group will welcome accountability around. And it might take a little bit longer than previous conversations. And I think that is what collective conversation requires. So I really appreciate our mutual commitment to that. Dr. Sutherland, thanks so much for all of your innovation and design thinking in this realm. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and just to let you know, the students looked at 7 different creative communities and looked at their strategies, their comprehensive plans. And so all that content and information is available. And then they started a kind of a starter set so anyway, we'll kind of, I'll work, Marilyn's kind of including me now in her team a little bit. So if she wants to include me more formally, I'm happy to do that as well. So we'll look at what the students came up with there. All right, thanks, Erin. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, appreciate you. Okay, next on our very packed agenda is an update from the Artist Resource Guidebook / Resource Guide. That's Marilyn, Stephanie, Schill.
Yes, I'm going to just give you all a brief review of where we're at. And as you've just probably all noticed, there is so much going on in our community right now. Discussion with the arts community, the Athens community. So the more we remember this, that we began with our charge being a conversation, as Stephanie mentioned, conversation with the community about the arts, their value of the arts, many, many things. But when COVID hit, we had to make some changes. And one of them was to develop this artist guide, which now artist guide / resource book. So we're finding ourselves both learning about all of the other things going on in the community and involved in some of them. And that's, they're giving it's exciting to think that everybody is really stepping up to give their attention to the needs of the Athens arts community and taking time to develop goals and support that. People are meeting, talking, brainstorming. And the last thing our subcommittee working on this guide wants to do is work in isolation and simply produce a static document. We want to collaborate and produce a living document that can grow, develop, connect, and support the work being done in our community. An example is just what David was talking about. His students have been working on a very exciting plan for quite some time, offers lots of new ideas for us to review and lots of potential for further development. Consequently, we will create what will be a guide and resource document for creatives. It will be addressed to a variety of artists, various categories, and will offer information for both the different levels of career development as well as the different categories of creatives. We'll have the ability to update it with new information and remove old information. We've spoken with John Morris and Aaron about linking this to the Creatives Directory, which looks like there's great potential for doing that. We're hoping we can. We also did receive from ACAC the Arts and Community Awards, and we'll use that money for graphics for this resource guide and possibly some marketing. So far, great. The guide itself or resource book will be addressed to Athens creatives and will include the following. Basically, it will start with an introduction of what it is, what it's for, how to use it. There'll be a table of contents, of course, and then a list of Athens arts resources. We really want to focus on Athens, this guide for Athens creatives, and we do want to highlight those businesses, organizations, services, all the arts related things going on in town that can be used by artists in our community. We want to really highlight those first. We'll begin with a list of 8 to 10 of the most important questions asked by artists. And that we are still working on. Each of those questions will head what I'm calling a chapter. Under each will be the categories of creatives. And so we'll have categories: visual arts, music, performance, dance, theater, film, etc. So we'll have a list of those, and under each of the questions will be those categories, those types of creatives. And then we will, under those categories, so example, I have a question, then I say visual artists. Under visual artists will be a list of resources that will address that question for that particular creative type. So we'll be listing websites, articles, things that these people asking, a visual artist asking this question can refer to get the information they need. At the end will be an addendum that will list professional organizations, books, other resources that people can go to. Some of this may be altered because of just what I was talking about. As we are working, we're discovering more and more things going on in the community. So, we'll have that option to make changes along the way. We will introduce, as things begin being written down, we will introduce it to everyone in this Envisions group to participate, give their ideas, any changes or additions they think we ought to include. And we are still looking for specific websites or resources for some of the categories of artists that we're not quite as familiar with. Our subcommittee is very much oriented towards visual arts and music. And so we have all kinds of wonderful resources for those and still keep collecting. But there are some of the other groups that we're not quite as familiar with and would still love to hear of any resources that you in the other areas would like to share with us. So you can send those to John or to me, and we really invite you to do that. I think that would be very helpful to us because we don't want to leave anyone out. And again, inclusion becomes another important thing that we're looking at and making sure that we address. So that in a nutshell is what we're doing. Have I confused you all? Stephanie, do you want to add to that? And I don't, is Shill here or Camille?
Camille's here. I don't know if Shill was able to join us. That was great. I think that's a wonderful, like, we're going to write a document, and I think we decided that we're still going to take in ideas, but it might be easier if we come up with a whole plan and y'all can edit and help us shape it, and that it will be a document that we can add to and update as we need. And then having this generous funding from the Cultural Affairs Commission to hire the graphic designer to help us do the layout will help us create a document that we can add to, and imagine it like we're creating our own little wiki for creatives and artists in Athens. How about that? So as a short way to explain it. So thanks, Marilyn. That was wonderful presentation about where we're at with it.
Marilyn, quick question for you. So I know you mentioned that your areas of expertise right now that y'all are, you have plenty of resources for are visual arts and music. I know Stephanie earlier had mentioned culinary and fashion as two that you were really helpful to learn from Dr. Sutherland's. What other mediums of art and creatives could you use support on?
Video, that type of thing. Where did I have my list? Yeah, dance and theater. There are so many types of artists under performance. And so, if you're a totally different, like there's street entertainment, if you have something related to that, send that to us. There are so many types. There's literary. We could use some of that. So we can put together a tighter list of creatives and let you all know we're doing that. But I'm sure there are people in this group who are like, wait, you didn't mention me. Great, send us some of your resources, websites and so on that you think have been helpful to you that we might be able to use.
Awesome, thank you.
As you all were talking, especially about some of the categories that are really strong parts of our creative economy that are sometimes overlooked, I was just thinking about the potential of, as we work to finalize the resource list, answering the question of, or kind of inviting exploration of what I wish I had known. So maybe for videography, a conversation that's a bit of a focus group or listening session with James Preston, Lamont Carson of Highlight Magazine, people who have built videography businesses. Maybe that's something that would help us kind of cross the finish line on that. I'm happy to help facilitate that, Marilyn, Stephanie, Camille, if you guys would like help securing final content for some of those areas.
Thank you, Erin. That's a great idea. I love the Q&A format. We still really hold to the idea that the guide is like almost quick reference. Like you can dive in and find something useful each time, and we don't want it to be like a too long, didn't read kind of a thing. We want you to be able to get right in there and find something useful, and also let people who are already working in these fields express themselves. And so quoting people in that Q&A format is fantastic. Thanks, Erin.
Awesome. Great. Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate your work. And speaking of, it was mentioned that this will be a value add for the Athens Creatives Directory. And that is really a pretty amazing culmination of a lot of the skills and attributes of this work group. And John, we couldn't have done this or gotten here without you. I'm going to move over to you and ask you to give us a little bit of history on the Athens Creatives Directory and then introduce the presentation from the New Media Institute. Thanks a lot for your work.
Sure, yeah. Hey everyone, so the Athens Creatives Directory, I think a lot of folks on this call know, but I love telling the history of it too, of course, was created in partnership with the Department of Economic Development last summer, and also with Create Athens. A lot of you in this group served in a number of focus groups and beta testing and things like that with the Creatives Directory. And which is great, and ended up launching in August. We're up to, I think, a little over 180 listings on the creatives directory. We connected it to holiday markets last November and December. We've seen traction with it in local press and media. And this in 2021, we've kind of been at a pivotal point where it can either fall off and kind of just be one of those websites that no one looks at ever again, or take it to the next level. And through a partnership with the UGA New Media Institute, we've had a student group of 5 students working on it this semester, and I've been meeting with them every other week and just kind of honing and crafting different elements to the site. So they created, they all, pretty much all of them had class or like a class change during this meeting. So they just went ahead and made a pre-recorded presentation. I'm going to go ahead and share screen and play their presentation. And then I'm happy to also answer questions and kind of put into context some of the things that they discuss in a pretty quick manner in the presentation, as well as walk you through kind of their version of the directory and then the current version of the directory. What they did was basically make a local copy of another copy of the creatives directory that they used as where they were doing their work all semester, and then have moved some of those changes over to the real directory. And then they have some of those also we're considering moving over as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and share screen when I find it. Here it is. Let's see. Can everyone see this? Cool. And if you can't hear it, just come off mute and tell me. But I'm gonna go ahead and play
Hey
it.
guys, we're the Athens Creative Directory, and I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about who we are. So first, I'm gonna talk about the client overview, and then our 1.0 changes and demo. Then we're gonna get into our visual design as well as some social templates we created. And then Paris is gonna talk about our website beta as well as our next steps. So the Athens Creative Directory is a hub for artists and performers. This project has been developed to promote the local Athens creative economy. ACD encourages creatives to submit listings of their work and services that will then be published for public viewing. This space is also for visitors and patrons to explore and connect with creatives in Athens. Now Paris is going to talk to us a little bit about what we've done.
Thanks, Nolan. So some of our primary concerns for the client was that the site had a lack of mobile friendliness, which made it a little harder to use for some of the consumers of the website. The site is also difficult to find on Google search engines. The site had a lack of promotion, which made it a little harder for artists to be found and to connect with each other. And there was also no meaningful way for artists to connect with the creative community of Athens on the website. So to address some of those concerns, what we've done so far is increase the user friendliness of the site by adding some guided tutorials and materials for users to use to make the site a little more accessible. We've refined the visual design of the website, corrected some SEO issues to make the site appear higher in search engine results, and we've added a forum and a calendar to foster some community within the creative community of Athens. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Shaz to talk about our 1.0.
Thanks, Paris. So the major changes that are seen in our 1.0 are an improved FAQ page, logo redesign, an added event calendar, and SEO improvement. For the improved FAQ page, we have included more easy to follow videos that answer some of the questions. Next, we redesigned the ACD logo. The logo had unnecessarily long vertical lines, so we trimmed them to make them more simplistic and easier to work with. Now we'll have Obi talk about the added event calendar.
Thank you, Shaz. In addition, the event calendar allows for users to share upcoming events to generate more exposure for their business and to foster a community amongst Athens creatives. After including an SEO plugin, the directory finally appears in search results as shown on the screen, making it easier to find. Now I'll pass it on to Nolan to speak on the visual design.
Thanks, Obi. Our client insisted that the original logo stay the same, but like Shaz explained, there was an issue with the length of the border on the logo, so we shaved down the sides while keeping the integrity of the original design. We also created the logo in a black and gray tone. Our main mission is to keep the directory accessible and legible to a large audience. Our audience ranges from 16 to 65 plus. We didn't want to add a quirky font that may be hard for someone to read who is already struggling to navigate the directory. Our client insisted on keeping the same black, white, and grays to keep a uniform look and not to take away from the artist profiles. So that's what we did. There was previously only one header image that was consistent across all pages. We chose these fun images to sneak in some personality and elevate the uniform look while still honoring our clients' wishes. Now I'm going to pass it to Kayla to talk about our templates.
The ACD, we pitched an idea to create an Instagram and made some post templates for whoever takes over the account in the future. And here we have a series of artist highlight templates. So you have a cover page introducing them, and then you scroll and see a gallery of their work. Then you might have a quote from that person in an artist Q&A. We also have variations of artist call posts for people in need of creatives for a project. And finally, event announcements so we can share news on gallery showings or meetups. And here's Paris with our website beta. So in addition to the social and visual elements of the project, we also created a website for our project. So on the website, users can scroll and they will see an overview of the client, as well as some information that just kind of gives a bit more of an overview of the purpose of the project and the features of the website. You'll also scroll and see the deliverables, which includes our visual design guide, as well as some other deliverables that we'll be including in the final project. And you'll also be introduced to our team, be informed on everyone's roles, and you'll also see a link where you can click to learn more about the New Media Institute. And as far as our next steps, we're going to work towards our 1.1 polish and fix some minor aesthetic improvements to the site, work on our stage presentation beta, and we'll also be delivering our final deliverables to the client to pass it off and go ahead and complete the project. Thank you.
Awesome. So just to put that in context, I believe they made that presentation as a 2-in-1 for the create meeting as well as for their class. So kind of what they were talking about at the end there with the website was, I think, more of like them creating a portfolio so they can use that and show that off to other people when they're trying to get jobs related to new media and web design and things like that. So that was a little less related to the creative directory at the end there. But a couple things I wanted to highlight. So they corrected the SEO issues. The ACD shows up on Google now, which is awesome. They fixed a number of structural things on the ACD that just makes it a little less glitchy. I know there were some times where buttons overlapped or buttons would randomly disappear. And those were just like really minor quick fix things that they were able to address pretty quickly and pretty easily. I'm gonna actually go back to screen sharing really quick just to show you what give you an idea of what some of their FAQ videos look like. They're really just like fun and quick and easy to follow. So on all these questions, they've created the step-by-step answers for people who don't want to watch the video, but for people that do want a little video, well, if my Wi-Fi will load it. So they'll just give you walkthroughs of how to do things. And with visual instructions popping up on the bottom. And so they've made little quick 20 to 30 second videos for a number of different things on editing your listing, creating a listing, and things like that. So that's kind of what they've been working on. That was a big ask, was the FAQ page, which really decreases the administrative burden of who's operating. I got so many emails of people asking the same questions when we first launched the ACD. So now the FAQ page there is accessible to people that prefer video or print, which is great. Another thing, I know they mentioned the calendar, and I know everyone probably thought that they could think of other calendars. Will this conflict with other calendars? How will this work with other calendars? That's of course a big question. And the calendar is something that we're kind of talking through right now. As of now, it has not been, it's still only on their local version of the site and hasn't been implemented to the live version of the site. We have a meeting next week with the CVB on incorporating, I think the CVB has a really solid events calendar. And so we're going to talk with the CVB about the CVB making a tailored kind of music and arts and culture related calendar to incorporate into the ACD. So rather than reinventing the wheel and having another calendar that exists, the idea here is to have one calendar that, or just have the basically version of the CVB calendar that is relevant feed into this one automatically. So that's the thought there. And then in terms of the social media, they really, they didn't want to, we talked through not creating a Instagram account that may or may not continue in perpetuity. And so rather than creating all of that, they really just built the structure and format so that should whether it is create a whole new Instagram handle for the ACD or incorporate it into an already existing Instagram handle that has good followership and covers a variety of mediums across the creative community, and wants to promote the ACD. They've created templates to do artist spotlights and artist Q&As, and that you saw the call for artists, etc. They went ahead and created templates so that should someone want to connect an Instagram handle to the ACD or create a new Instagram handle for the ACD, those templates are already created, and the burden of creating a content for that is as simple as punching in an image over it and changing the text on it. So that's the main things I have. I do want to go ahead and share screen and show the kind of their demo of the forum. These are things that, again, that are still being discussed. So this is the live ACD right now. Their local version of the ACD, you can see they have the demo of what would be the event calendar, the demo of the forum, which is what I want to show is just kind of is a concept right now and something that we're discussing, whether we stick with the forum or we go to switch the format instead of a forum to be like just a call for artist page is still kind of being discussed. It's really going to come down to what's the time commitment and how will things work. So essentially what they had in mind was creating a forum that says call for artists and allow people to, let's see, I'm just trying to find this. So you could make like an artist, like say you could make a forum called call for artists and people could make posts about an upcoming event or call for artists or advice or things like that. So again, these are more just concepts that they've created and have in mind and can be developed by whoever is monitoring and doing the web design of the ACD long term. So I see some things going on in the chat. Oh, awesome. People just saying great things. Cool. Well, I'd love to open up for questions. If anyone does have questions, I'm happy to answer or address them or to take comments or feedback. And I will say too that the students are closing out on this project at the end of next week. So it's kind of like last comments we might be able to incorporate, but definitely would love whatever feedback we can get from the group on things like this. So would love to hear your thoughts or questions.
I love that you guys don't want to reinvent something. That is awesome, and working with the CVB so we can consolidate and get these out-of-town spenders coming in and dropping off some money with our artists and consolidating that messaging. That's like a new thing here in Athens if we don't want to reinvent our own thing. So great job on that. So I hope that partnership works out well with CVB.
Yeah, and John, you've done a remarkable job. And Ryan, we also have you on the call and want to thank you for the partnership with the Department of Economic Development, who really supervise and manage the technical aspects of this from the beginning. Ryan, is there anything you want to add?
No, this is all great, and I concur. These partnerships are critical with Envision and the CVB and UGA and all of our partners, even across our organization here in the different departments, but across the community. This has gone very well. So good work to everybody. Thank you.
And Hannah Smith with the CVB actually was hoping to join us today, but wasn't able to. Guys, she is like a master of calendar and SEO strategy and extranets, all sorts of things that are not my area of expertise. So I really think we could not do better than to connect this to what they have. They've invested a great deal of resources over time. And I know less about this, but apparently with SEO, the longer you've been at it, in other words, if you've had a site that has been working that SEO for decades, then you automatically, have kind of preemptive status over anyone who's new to that game. And so by connecting to them and their historic investment in that, we've already essentially catapulted much further than we could go on our own. So that's a very Envision Athens way to do things. So I really appreciate the collaborative energy kind of taking us to an exponential destination. Anything else about the creatives directory? Before moving on?
If anyone does have questions, comments, or thoughts, please, you all have my email. I send you all enough emails. I was gonna put it in the chat. Just email me, and I would love to talk about it and share it with the students. There's also one other thing that they've kind of brought up some concerns about different categories and subcategories, which was just such a long conversation last summer, and I thought we did it very well. They want to include, they have ways to maybe make the site more inclusive to coders and web designers and see that. And I agree with them that is a very valuable element of the creative community and could serve as a resource to those folks as well. So if you have specific thoughts about like trying to identify new ways to make the ACD connect with coders and web designers, and right now it's currently classified under media arts. They're proposing maybe making a new larger category for it on the ACD. If you have thoughts on that, please just shoot me an email, and I would love to consider those thoughts as I talk with them this week about making a decision on that.
I know we haven't pulled up the specific document in a minute, and I won't do so now. You guys are mostly pretty familiar with it, but we are actually moving at a really nice pace through a lot of the success measures that we created together. So the idea of connecting community calendars, creating an artist registry or directory are things that this community has been talking about for a very long time that we have finally made traction on, as well as laying groundwork for some more, I think, systemic points of progress related to how to work to increase wages and compensation for artists, in particular to this next point, musicians. How can a community do that, but avoid the logical problem that would create, which is making tickets less affordable for people? So it's almost like if you solve one problem, you're then making it more difficult for access. And so enter Stage Right, Jennifer Davidson and Sound Diplomacy. She did some research and found some best practices from the group Sound Diplomacy. Would love to hear from you, Jennifer, about how we might address that here in Athens.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Aaron, and everybody. Just in case you don't know who I am, I'm board president at New T Space, as well as I'm a partner in the General Time project across the street from Terrapin. I attended David's presentation yesterday, his student's presentation, and it got me thinking a lot about sort of how we have all these products and how they can all roll up to the sort of Athens creative economy brand. And there's a lot of other things. Well, first of all, I do have a question about the creative directory. Are there any, and maybe Ryan can speak to this, since it's tied into the economic development, are there going to be, or can we integrate resources for data and metrics within the Athens creative community sectors? So, you know, things like employment, audience, facilities, finance, activities of the cultural organizations that are here in town, so that we can have the data and the metrics and then serve those up to the state so that they can help attract business here. I've been reading a lot about it, and it shows that the creative sector is typically not reported within a lot of in a lot of the same ways that other sectors are. So I don't know if we have an answer to that, or if that's something that we want to keep looking at, or if it's already baked into that. Okay, Dee Dee was just asking the same question. Of course, we're going to continue to have lots of thoughts on this.
This is Ryan. Yeah, that is something we're sort of doing different phases of the directory. And I see that as a near-term addition to do that kind of reporting. We've had conversations at the state level and have looked, at their statewide reports that they've pulled together, and that's a great dialogue to continue with them. But to really get the directory up to a critical mass, and then have it where it is, to a point where we sort of make that into I guess, more automated system to say, okay, we agree on what this term means and what this group does, because you do need to sort of align that with how the state defines these different categories for what you're reporting. But yeah, that's part of the plan. Absolutely.
Great. Okay, so as I was attending this presentation yesterday, I'm going to back into the stuff that I learned through sound diplomacy and as it relates directly to music. But well, first I'm going to start with a quote. I'm going to take a page out of Aaron's book and sort of set the stage for how excited I am that we've got all of these groups coming together so often. And basically, you've heard it before, but if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It's an African proverb. So I think as I'm attending all these different groups, it gets me really excited that as a community, as the Athens, Georgia community, we are working together so that we can go far together. And then looking at all of the different creative niches within Athens, and we were talking about that earlier, there's so many of them, but there are so many that connect all of Athens to kind of roll up to the overall umbrella of the brand of Athens. It's tourism, it's agriculture and agribusiness, it's tech and biotech innovation, obviously CPGs, which a lot of this rolls right up to the creative sector. There's also lifestyle, wellness, and spiritualism in Athens. I mean, there's so much of that's happening here. That would absolutely roll up to this. Aerial and circus arts, and then obviously music. So all of this is sort of our brand. And so then I'm going to back into the music piece, and where a lot of what I've gleaned from this comes out of a resilience handbook that Sound Diplomacy, the organization, put together. And in fact, you can all get access to this. You have to give them your email, but it's a best practices of, hey, when and how we go back, this is how we should be doing this. And I'm looking at the time too, it's 11:24. Do we typically go an hour on this meeting? Because I'm gonna hit this pretty quick then.
Yeah. If you could go about 3 minutes, that would be great. We have a couple of wrap up. Thank you.
Awesome. So the economics of it, and we've talked a lot about this, like the idea that there should be no more starving artists. Spotify, art galleries, the universities, all of these people are not starving. So why are the creators? Why, when we say art, does it have to mean philanthropy? And then especially within the BIPOC sectors. The creative economy is the economics engine of Athens. It sells and produces like nothing else. For example, CPGs. And then kind of backing into reentry in terms of music, we're not going back, obviously, to where we were before the shutdown. We're in a new world. And we need to, so there are ways we can go about this going forward. Create a music task force. But again, I don't want to keep, we've got Envision Athens, we've got all of these pieces. I feel like we don't want to create one thing for one sector. All of this to me can roll up into some sort of creative collective, or maybe into Envision Athens, or wherever we decide it needs to go. So we need to assist in barriers to creation. So sharing resources, lawyers, let's see, if you have a, like somebody who handles finances, what are they called? I clearly have an artist background. Like you have a
financial planner.
a financial planner, but like even just to give, you know, the bean counters for a terrible.
Your accountant?
Thank you.
Yay. I feel like I'm on a game show right now. Do I
I
get
know, right? Thank you, Erin. But so basically, you know, sharing those resources that they don't typically have access to. And a lot of this came out in what the students found yesterday is that in terms of business acumen, a lot of artists need support in that. And then also working with the city government to develop policy that is friendly to the nighttime economy. So that relates directly to the music industry. Things like loading zones, maybe even keeping the bars open later at night so that bartenders can make more money. And that there are, you know, I mean, if you look at a bar like Caledonia, a lot of those bands, and obviously it's sad to see them go, but a lot of those bands were later, you know, they would go on later. So let's see. There is corporate sponsorship if we want to talk about, you know, being giving access to people who maybe can't afford ticket prices. We could do corporate sponsorship. And then a lot of what they talked about too is we're going to be going forward, there will be blended hybrid events. So, you know, a lot of what we can do is give access online at a lower rate, as well as, you know, there's other benefits to that. It allows us to get more eyes on bands here. So if, you know, we're broadcasting event out of, say, Livewire, you know, who knows how many eyes will be on that event outside of Athens. And then there's also, in terms of ADA compliance, you know, if somebody isn't able to physically get to an event, they can experience it online. Let's see.
Jennifer, is it okay if I kind of pause us on that point?
Please.
Is that all right?
Absolutely.
I bet you have other things that are definitely important points, but for the sake of time, and I think to give us something to kind of chew on and digest and brainstorm around, I think specifically because of the life and the importance of the music business in Athens, Clark County, I would love to ask this group between now and the next meeting to do two really key things. One, dive back into that SWOT analysis, so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats related to the inclusiveness or lack thereof in the arts and culture reality. So number one, homework assignment, dig back into that document. I would love to ask you guys to spend a thoughtful hour thinking through if there is anything that we haven't discussed that you think is key to that conversation. And maybe more importantly than anything, what are some action steps that we can take moving forward from that? And then thinking about this idea of a corporate sponsorship or a pay it forward, what would it look like and who would be the necessary partners for a situation in which at the door you have someone who cannot necessarily afford a ticket price, but there is some program created so that a corporate sponsor has covered a certain amount of tickets or a certain amount of difference between a lower cost and the newly raised cost. What would that look like? Who would need to be at the table to discuss, like, tactically how to make that happen? So clearly venues like the 40 Watt, Georgia Theater, maybe others. And then who are some businesses who, you know, have prioritized and care about the creative economy, who might be willing to put some actual dollars toward that initiative. So is that, Jen, is that a good place to stop for now since we're at an hour?
It is.
Is that okay? I know there's a lot more to talk about, but just want to give us time to end. Are there any other community updates or announcements? We'll leave just 1 minute to go around the table and then close out for the day. Dee Dee, you always have announcements, so I'm just looking at you. I mean, I know.
I already
where I'm
unmuted,
going.
Erin. I already unmuted. We are installing an exhibit right now, put together by our wonderful guest curator who is on this call, LaRushela Murphy. And this show is entitled #Not a Stereotype, and it features regional Black artists looking at Black artistry in the museum sector. And it is a fantastic show. It will go on view May 1. You don't need any special ticket. Goes on view May 1, and then there'll be a series of programs, evening programs, gallery talks, and so forth, which I will share when those are developed. La Rochelle it's a fantastic show, so thank you.
Anything else?
I just want to add that the Athens-Clarke County Arts Division is proud to announce that we have filled our public art coordinator position. So Tatiana Venerosa, who has long worked as an independent curator and with public art and the Athens Cultural Affairs Commission, has joined the Arts Division staff and will be the point person now for all of our projects that we're working on with the Athens Cultural Affairs. And I'm not sure she was able to join us on this meeting today, but in the future, y'all will get to meet her, and that she will be, helping bring all of these public art projects to bear with the Cultural Affairs Commission. So.
And then another update, the Emma Amos show ends Sunday at the Georgia Museum of Art. So be sure to check that out if you haven't had the chance. And as we close out, I just wanted to get your feedback on something. As we look to vaccination rates and a potential return, a bit of a side brainstorm included the thought of maybe taking the month of July off, taking that month, encouraging you guys to find maybe one person in this group, 1 or 2 people that you haven't seen face to face, reach out to them, check in on them, build a relationship with someone else in Create Athens in July. Then in August, have a social gathering at a local spot in town, and then come back in person in a large enough space to accommodate us safely in September. So that's just a bit of a brainstorm. If you like that, I see some nonverbal cues that indicate you are a fan of this possibility. If you have any alternative thoughts or preferences, let me know, please. But really look forward to seeing you guys in the flesh sooner rather than later. All right. Okay, thanks everybody. We'll see you in May. I dropped that date in the chat box, and the SWOT analysis will be in the notes. Thank you, John Morris. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, Landon.